comes a point where you just have to accept that some people just choose to take on a stance because they don't like somebody. And I'm sure there are people that would say the same thing about me and about other fans who are fans of Caitlin Clark. But at the end of the day, when you discount numbers and you ignore their existence, and because of their existence, you find a way to diminish or dismiss the reality, it just makes you look more and more silly. Welcome back to another edition of Rudy's Rant, Her Game, Her Way, women's basketball. Talk facts for feelings here. Be sure to like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, leave a comment. Remember, we do live tomorrow night, Tuesday night, tonight at 9 p.m. So be there 9 p.m. for the overall live. We'll have a lot of things to talk about. Greatly appreciate your continued support. We just crossed 7,900 subscribers. I appreciate that. We got to 7,900 like I was hoping we could get to by the 15th. Or was it 8,000? I think I really am looking for 8,000. Get me to 8,000 by the 15th. That's only about 100 more to go by the 15th. Tax day. I think it was 8,000. Either way, I appreciate y'all continued support of this channel. In full disclosure, I will say that I was actually somewhat surprised to see the actual viewership numbers for yesterday's national championship game. And they came back in at 8.5 million. And that kind of surprised me. I got to admit it. It did. It actually surprised me. It actually surprised me. I was looking more between probably 6.5 and 8. But this is the number. 8.5 million. And that's rather surprising considering what an ass whooping it was. There was a peak of about 9.8. If you remember last year, the peak for last year's game was like over 24 million or something like that. It was around there. It was crazy high. And the average was 18.9 or 18.6. I thought it was 18.6, 18.9, whatever. And you see those numbers, and what do you do? What do you say? Well, clearly the numbers probably were high to start. At their highest number probably was early in the game when the game was still somewhat decent. And then I'm sure as the game continued and progressed and turned into an absolute blowout, those numbers started to drop. Now, there was a segment that was done with Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird where they had a Caitlin Clark on there. I'm curious to know what those numbers were at the time period in which she was on, because I would venture to guess that those numbers are probably the highest ratings they had for the weekend. I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. Probably was a pretty high number for ESPN2 doing that broadcast with Taurasi and Bird. Nonetheless, last year, Caitlin Clark's ratings were over 10 million more than this year's game. So are you going to tell me that the 10.4 million difference on these two numbers was a bunch of white people from the Midwest? Is that what folks are trying to now spin? This is from Dave Portnoy, Presidente of Barstool. I'm going to need all the race baiters who explain Caitlin Clark's popularity simply because she's white to explain why 10 million more people watched her last year than Paige Bueckers, also white, this year. I'll hang up and listen. Listen, it's like the white people all hate Paige Bueckers because she said some nice things a few years back. That's ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with nothing. And people want to keep that narrative going, and they want to keep that agenda going. It's going to go on forever and a day. It's going to continue forever in a day. And you're going to keep saying, you're going to keep hearing, well, Caitlin Clark benefited from Angel Reese and Paige Bueckers had no villain. Go for it. If that's what works for you, great. I want to know where did all the white people just not want to watch Paige Bueckers play? Because I mean, that's the indication is that they were all white. But we know that's not true. I've talked to enough people yesterday who never turned the game on, who watched it last year, and none of them people were white. I promise you that. I promise you that none of those people were white. Black men loved watching Caitlin Clark. Black men loved watching Caitlin Clark play. It's just what it is. Because they appreciate what she does on that court. Only the simps that want to think that Angel Reese might give them some tail at some point in their lives or have this narrative that they have to protect the Black Queen bullshit, whatever the fuck that means in terms of basketball. like, come on, man. And those same folks were pushing for Paige and they were pushing for Juju before that. There's a narrative that just Paige had to win. I mean, I see people that I know on my Facebook page. There's, oh, Paige did what Caitlin couldn't. Yeah, you're right. Neither of them could win the most outstanding player of the Final Four. They both. Yeah, you're right. Paige Bueckers could not win most outstanding player of the Final Four because her 2 games at the Final Four fucking sucked. Caitlin Clark didn't win because her team lost. But if they had won, she would have won it in a landslide because she was the best player on the floor for both teams. And reasonably could have gotten the award even in a loss. Because again, she was the best player both years for both teams. That said, it is the continued push of this ridiculous, and even here, the game yesterday was at 3 p.m., which didn't help. What? The game the last 3 years has been at 3 or 3:30 p.m. Did you say anything last year when the Iowa South Carolina game was at 3 p.m. and drew 18.9 million? No. It's always been at 3 p.m. You know when the Super Bowl is? 6 p.m. And on the US, that's usually at 3 or 4, usually at 3 p.m. It's at 3 p.m. On the West Coast, the Super Bowl's at 3 p.m. Yet it does 135 million people. There's always going to be some excuse. There's always going to be some narrative push. There's always going to be some reason why it couldn't happen. You want to know another reason of reality here? The reality, this year, they counted 100% of the households. There was an adjustment done on the household count. The household count this year was 100%. Last year, the household count was 66%. This comes directly from my boy Ben Daniel, because he's the one that initially put me on this. As you can see, going from counting 66% of households in 24 to 100% of households in 25, and still a solid 10 million people short. Last year must have been hovering around 20 million mark using this year's rating system. Ben, I think you're short selling it. Absolutely unfathomable. I'm going to tell you right now, Ben, last year's number was almost 19 million. I would tell you this, hovering 20? No, sir. No, sir. Because if you're counting 66%, you need to decrease that 8.5 to 2/3 of that. And what is 2/3 of 8.5 million? Let's do the math. Times 66.7. Actually, that's the wrong one. Yeah, it's about 5,600,000. Yeah, that's 5,669,500. Now take that same 18.9 million and multiply that times 1.3, because that was the increase to 1.33, and you're looking at 25 million actually. So based on these numbers alone, you would find that this was 20 million is a short sell. It was hovering at about 25 million based on this, on what they're doing this year in Nielsen's. ESPN PR continues the narrative fans turned into Sunday's national championship rematch between UConn. It's not a rematch. What are you talking about? They can't even get that shit right. The rematch. I'm sorry. The rematch was from the regular season. The way that's worded is national championship rematch from a year ago. That's what it's not a national championship rematch. It's a rematch from the regular season in the national championship. A national championship rematch would be a game that got played last year in the national championship, and that's not what happened. 2025 also marks the second most consumed NCAA women's basketball tournament on record, 8.5 billion minutes. I don't even know how they come up with that crap, but I'm sure number one was last year. Um, Along with the fact that they're tracking 100% and not 66%. Now, it's the third most watched NCAA women's national championship on ESPN platforms since 1996, peak at 9.8 million. So what you're telling me is that the last 2 years were better. Last year was better by 10 million. Even the year before with Clark and Angel Reese was better than this by 1.4 million. I'm sure the peak was well over 11 or so. So let's keep the narrative that you got needle movers that hell, I'm gonna tell you right now, the reason these numbers did well was because of Caitlin Clark. I'm gonna keep that one going on. She's still the reason they put her on television. Are you surprised? They put her on the Diana Taurasi Sue Bird thing to draw eyes. I mean, for 21 minutes. I watched clips. I haven't seen it. I don't even care. But the narrative will continue. All those people are white, apparently. They only watched her because she was white. Yet the white girl who played yesterday wasn't watched, even though the white girl that played yesterday is also from the Midwest. And even in this situation, the white girl from the Midwest, who wasn't even the most outstanding player, didn't play well in the tournament in the last two games, was outplayed by two of her teammates in AZ Fudd and Sarah Strong, and was largely carried in those last two games. Realistically, they didn't need her in either one of those games to win. That should tell you something. That in itself should tell you just how talented UConn is. And for those of you who say, oh, she has a ring that Caitlin doesn't have, yeah, she sure does. Congratulations to her. Seriously, congratulations to her. A well-earned ring. She played great for most of the year, almost the entirety of the year. She carried them in many chunks of the season. She was the most efficient player in college women's basketball. I'm not being condescending or sarcastic at any of those things. I'm being dead serious. She is the most efficient player in women's college basketball this year. And yet, in the last two games, she was the least efficient of her season. She shot under 39% from the field in those last two games. She was not efficient. She was not good. But she got a ring, and that's good for her. No different than the 12th player on the roster getting a ring. I guess that player is probably better than Caitlin Clark too. That's the problem with this whole nonsense. I've always hated ring culture. I've never liked it. I don't like it in pro sports. I don't like it in college sports. I don't like it because one, while Iowa might be considered a high major Division One program, realistically, in the world of high major Division One programs, it's not a high major Division One program, and that's across the board. It's not high major in football, not high major in basketball. It's high major probably in wrestling. In the other sports, it is a mid-level program amongst high major schools. And allow me to explain. Ohio State is a high major program in football and basketball. Michigan, high level. Heck, Nebraska is a high level program in football, even though they haven't won a lot. If you were given the choice of playing football at Nebraska or playing football at Iowa, your scholarship offered at Nebraska is probably going to be looked at more highly. Look at I mean, Maryland. I mean, heck, even Maryland. Maryland basketball typically is better than Iowa's on both sides. Alabama, high major football. Georgia, high major football. Florida, high major football and basketball. Florida State, I mean, outside of this past year, if you had an option of Iowa or Florida State, you're going to Florida State. If you had an option of Iowa or Miami, you're going to Miami. Like this is what I'm talking about. So what she did was she morphed a mid-level D1 program in the Big Ten and made them the best program in the conference for 3 years. She made them the best program in the conference for 3 years. She made the program relevant to the point where people are still watching the program. They might not be watching with the same fervor as they did with her, but without her, they're still watching it. There's still interest. There's still interest. Her jersey retirement day did 1.5 million TV viewers. She wasn't playing. Jersey was being retired. The tickets to that game sold out like this. She changed a program. She changed a sport. There's not many people that can say they changed a sport. Name me a college football player who's changed college football. I love college football. I can't think of one who's changed college football. Men's basketball, same thing. I can't think. You'd have to go back to the 70s probably. Before I was born in 77. So you have to go back probably before I was born. Because there's no Michael Jordan, maybe, but he didn't really change college basketball. He changed the NBA. Magic and Bird, they changed college basketball. There you go. Magic and Bird changed college basketball. Like, we can do this all day, but Iowa was a mid-level Big Ten program, and they became an elite Big Ten program in women's basketball because of Caitlin Clark. Even then, could not recruit players to put around her who wanted to go to Iowa. Just give her one, just one. There was a picture I saw of a guy who's on Twitter who took a photo. I think he took a photo, or there was a photo of someone with Hannah Stuelke. Hannah Stuelke is not 6'2". She's damn sure not 6'3". She's more about 6'1", because the guy is 6'3", and she was way shorter than him. She's maybe at best 6'1". That was your big. That was your big playing against 6'7" Camila Cardoso. Like, that was the difference. It wasn't anything else. It was the difference. I mean, the year against LSU, the difference was Jasmine Carson off the bench drilling 3 after 3 and then rebounding. They got crushed on the boards in both years, as far as I remember. I mean, let me see. Iowa. Yeah, they got beat by 11 on the boards, 14-7 on offensive boards. Then the next year, I mean, that was just an absolute annihilation by South Carolina. It was like 20, I think, something ridiculous. It was absolutely absurd, a number. Last year was 51-29. I mean, this is a size difference. Even with nothing special. Last year's Iowa team in the championship scored 0 points off the bench. 0. 0. Like, this is a fact. South Carolina got 19 off the bench just from Tessa Johnson. Another 9 from Malaysia Fulwiler. Another 6 from Sanya Fagan. They got 27, 30, 36 points off their bench. That's significant. And even with all that ability, you couldn't get people to go to Iowa. It's just reality. But people watched. Fans watched. And you're not going to tell me that 10 million people disappeared. because she was white. Because the player that they were supposed to be watching yesterday was white. And if you're black, weren't you watching South Carolina? Dawn Staley, the queen of women's basketball, the queen coach. Why aren't you supporting her? We know why. Because the reality is very, 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 very simple. The simple reality is that Caitlin Clark swung the needle. She was the reason. She will always be the reason, no matter what ESPN tries to do, tries to say. Her games are the top games ever. Her games in the Natty, in the Final Four, all better, and by a mile. 10 million people didn't fall off the earth because she was white. 10 million fell off because she was just that fucking good. She was just that box office. She was just that must-see TV. And people don't want to accept it. You don't have to. No one gives a shit anymore. We'll keep making these videos. We'll keep laughing at stupid people. No problem. I'll keep laughing at how dumb you are. It's amusing at this point that there are men and women that will dumb themselves down knowing knowing that 10 McDonald's All-Americans were on that fucking court yesterday for UConn, knowing that there was only one on the court last year for Iowa versus that South Carolina team. That South Carolina team last year that was better than this team. That team last year for South Carolina was a better team than the team they had this year, and a lot better. The size alone of Camila Cardoso, massive. Massive. But hey, y'all let me know y'all thoughts. We know how it rolls. We know how it goes. Can't wait for the WNBA season to start. I can't wait for the draft to be in a week when we can find out how many people don't watch this draft that no one gives a shit about because none of these players actually want to be in it. They're actually staying in school to avoid it. Think about that. This is, I mean, it's crazy. But you let me know your thoughts. I appreciate y'all. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell. Appreciate everything as usual. Get me to 8,000 by April 15th. Live, 9 p.m. tonight. Let's have a party. This is Rudy's Rant. Her way. Her game, her way. Women's basketball. Come on now.